this week's assembly. We are going to be talking about a topic today which is linked to an idea of democracy, which is going to be our theme for assemblies this half term. So today we are going to be talking about something called human rights. So I'm just going to share my screen. There we go. Right, I want you to have a think. So, human rights. What do you think human rights are? Why do you think they are important? Why should we care? Why should we even care? So press pause on the video. You might want to have a think. You might want to discuss your thoughts with an adult, or maybe take notes and discuss them at your afternoon briefings. So press pause to have a think, and when you're ready, press play. Great, really looking forward to maybe hearing some of your ideas at your afternoon's briefings. Right, I'm just going to quickly, we're going to start off by having a look at a video which is going to give us some more information about what human rights are. So,
from the start of our lives, because we are human beings, there are certain things our governments must do to help us reach our potential. These expectations and claims we have of our governments are called human rights. Every single man, woman and child has them. Rights call on governments to respect, avoid putting limits on some things that a person can do. Protect, safeguard a person from abuse. Fulfill, to provide basic conditions to enable a person to achieve their potential. The most basic minimum human rights standards have been discussed and written down by countries. Countries have agreed to follow them. These have become international law. An example where human rights can be found at home is in the Constitution. Promoting respect for basic rights is one of the main purposes of the United Nations. This is achieved through activities of United Nations organisations around the world. The Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights is responsible for leading the UN's Human Rights Programme. There are also committees of experts that monitor how well countries put their human rights promises into practice. And there is an assembly of countries called the Human Rights Council, which discusses different human rights topics and situations from around the world. Find out what your rights are, learn more about the UN Human Rights Programme, and spread the word. Visit ohchr.org.
okay, let me go back to my screen. Good. So I hope that's given you a bit of a brief introduction about what human rights are and also the role of some important organisations. So human rights are basic rights and freedoms which belong to everyone in the world. They apply regardless of where you come from, what you believe, or how you choose to live your life. These basic rights are based on shared values such as dignity, fairness, equality, and respect. So we can start to recognise some of these ideas in some of the shared values that we have in this school. So the document, the video we're talking about, is something which is called the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So after World War II ended, an organisation called the United Nations was formed, aiming to prevent future wars. So this was made up of a number of different countries, and since then more and more countries have actually joined it. The UN is has headquarters in New York in the United States, also has some offices in Geneva, and also has some office in Africa. It also works on different projects, which the video actually talked about, but we're focusing today on its human rights work. So at a meeting in 1948, different countries worked together to produce a list of standards and rights for everyone around the world. And this lady here is someone called Eleanor Roosevelt, who worked very closely with the United Nations. So having a think, what do you think some of these human rights could be? What could be some of the items that they have put into this Universal Declaration of Human Rights? Have a think. You might want to pause the video. So on this screen, let's just move this a little bit across. There we go. So these on the screen here, these are the 30 rights, so just the headline rights, which are included in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So these are what are included. They are in, as the video says, they are in international law, which means if you break them, you can be taken to court. There is the international courts, which it's based in The Hague, which is a city in the Netherlands. So not far, only about an hour or so from the UK. Other countries will also have additional equality and rights laws. So for example, we have the Equality Act here in the UK, and other countries will have laws, but these are the declarations which are you need to follow these. If you do not follow these, you are breaking international law. So what I want you to do now is, first of all, have a read through them. You might want to read them aloud with an adult. You might want to, maybe if there's any words that you're not quite sure of, maybe write them down and speak to an adult about them. So, and then what I want you to do is I want you to think about would you be able to choose any of these rights as the most important, the principle, the main aim of human rights? What is the most important? And then do you have any, do you find any of these rights a little bit surprising? Maybe you wouldn't think that they are that important to you. Okay, so press pause now. Have a discussion. Maybe you might want to write ideas down and discuss them in your briefing. And then when you're ready, press play. Good. Right, I think if I was going to choose one as the most, for me personally, the most important, oh, it's so hard. I think I'd say number 3, we have a right to live in freedom and safety. But then so many of those are linked to each other. It's very difficult. These are our basic human rights. These things are so important to everyone. And in fact, they're so important to everyone. What has also happened in the UN, there has also been the rights of a child. So it's taken these rights, these human rights, and made them as well a set of declarations which are important for children. So that's the UN rights of a child. So you might want to have a look at that. It's very interesting. So we're going to have a quick look at some famous figures in the fight for human rights. You might know some other ones. Again, bring these up maybe into discussion, maybe bring them up in your briefings. So famous figures. So Martin Luther King worked to organize protests, so peaceful protests and speeches in the US to draw attention to the racial discrimination that was happening there. We have here Malala, who I think some of you might have read Malala's Magic Pencil. So she is a prominent education activist, which means an activist is someone who fights for a cause. So she fought for equal education in the area of Pakistan where she grew up. And in fact, some people who were so angry with that she was fighting for the basic right of education that they actually tried to really hurt her. And so she escaped to the UK, and she ended up graduating from Oxford University about 2 years ago. So she's done amazingly well, and she's really fought for equal education. And Greta Thunberg, whether you like it or not, she is definitely an activist in human rights. So her and 15 other children have put a landmark complaint. So they've complained to the United Nations, as they believe the lack of government action in climate change is a human rights issue. But the fact is that governments aren't doing more about climate change is affecting and is against our human rights. Again, you might not necessarily agree with all of them, but we need to listen to respect. That is one of, obviously, a human right. So what can you do to help? Stay informed, read, watch or listen. So you can read websites such as BBC Newsround, read Junior of the Week. Watch, there's lots of programs which are very informative. Newsround is one of the most fantastic programs about this. Or listen, you can listen to speeches such by people such as Greta Thunberg or Malala. You can follow or support organisations. So the BIHR is the British Institute for Human Rights, and they have a section all about for children and young people and gives more information. There is an organisation called Amnesty International who's incredibly famous in human rights, and there's a way to get involved, whether it's by supporting or looking at their young. They have, well, probably wouldn't at the moment have Zoom or online groups. UNICEF is again a charity which is obviously supported by the United Nations, UN. Again for children's rights, as well as also Save the Children, and any form of organisation which is trying to help people's rights. So it's whether every charity will normally have an area linked to human rights, whether it's the right to, for example, get fair treatment in terms of like injustice, or for example, if someone is unwell, getting access to fair treatment. Discuss with the adults in your life, or discuss with your peers, or discuss with your teachers any questions or concerns. For example, if there's not something that you don't understand that we've talked about today, ask. You might not understand why this has happened. We can discuss that. Okay, so what we're going to finish off with today is we are going to finish off with a reading from a picture book. This is a picture book which is called We Are All Born Free, and it's a picture book which is being produced by Amnesty International. It's fantastic, and it's the Universal Declarations of Human Rights, the document we've talked about today, and it's in pictures, and it's illustrated by some very famous authors such as Axel Schäfer, hope I pronounced that right, and also Chris Waddell. So I've just included a few illustrations. If you are interested in buying this book or seeing more, I think it might be in the school library. If not, it's available for sale in any good bookstore, both online, or you can order it from a bookstore and pick it up in person. Right, let's have a look. We are all born free and equal. We all have our own thoughts and ideas. We should all be treated in the same way. These rights belong to everybody, whatever our differences. We all have a right to life and to live in freedom and safety. Nobody should be blamed for doing something until it is proved. When people say we did a bad thing, we have the right to show it is not true. If we are frightened of being badly treated in our own country, we all have the right to run away to another country to be safe. We have the right to believe in whatever we like, to have a religion and to change it if we wish. We all have the right to make up our own minds, to think what we like, to say what we think, and share ideas with other people. We all have right to take part in the government of our country. Every grown-up should be allowed to choose their own leaders. We all have the right to meet our friends and to work together in peace to defend our rights. Nobody can make us join a group if we don't want to. We all have the right to our own way of life and to enjoy the good things that science and learning bring. Okay. Well, I hope you found this assembly interesting, and it's managed to provoke, so managed to make you think about some issues. So in our reflection today, I want you to reflect on things that we've discussed today, and also maybe some ongoing questions which you can maybe discuss with an adult in your house, maybe with your peers, or even in your afternoon briefing or morning briefing. So I want you to think about, what are human rights? Something you might have known a little bit about before the assembly, but what are human rights? excuse me, what are my human rights? And are human rights equal across the world? That last question might not be something that you know much about at the moment, but it's something would be good to think about going forward. So press pause now to think about and reflect about what we've talked about in this assembly. Have a great rest of the week, year 3 and 4, and looking forward to hearing that you've been having some really, really valuable discussions from this topic.